one thing for sure is when you have a building that is constantly losing water into the space, whether that's through leaky faucets, leaky pipes, or ill fitted HVAC equipment, they're burning excess electricity. So they're losing money to generate hot water because it's dumping out. They're losing money because water is literally coming through the walls. And I think owners are really focused on not only increasing rent rolls, but also reducing that cyclical or recurring expense through their utilities.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of the REIT Report. Today's episode is sponsored by SageWater. SageWater helps multifamily owners protect their investment and improve residents' quality of life through turnkey plumbing and mechanical infrastructure solutions. With forensic diagnosis, engineering design, and construction services, they upgrade and install critical systems while renters remain in their homes. With me to share his insights into plumbing and mechanical infrastructure issues and solutions is David Schanuel, President and COO at SageWater. David, thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, David, I want to start off by asking you how you would describe the overall infrastructure landscape for multifamily plumbing and piping systems in the U.S. today.
Yeah, the infrastructure landscape in multifamily is somewhat bifurcated today. There is a tremendous amount of new housing stock in the multifamily industry that's been delivered over the last 10 to 20 years. And that's not where SageWater focuses primarily, because there is a substantial amount of aged infrastructure in the multifamily space. And that age infrastructure was delivered in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and sometimes early 80s. And that's where SageWater's focus is. Their plumbing and mechanical systems have aged out or phased out of their useful life and really need to be addressed to ensure that housing stock remains a top quality asset for the ownership groups that maintain and rent out those facilities.
And how do those issues impact the REIT industry?
These issues at hand really do impact the quality of the asset for the real estate holders, because the plumbing and HVAC systems are what allow for the highest levels of occupancy. And the reliability of those systems not only is critical for the resident comfort, but also can be one of the most costly systems to maintain or replace for the REITs in the future. If they're a long-term hold REIT, they're going to really want to emphasize their robust nature of a system and the asset that they hold. And they want to make sure that they can have full-time occupancy, because a unit that doesn't have heat or doesn't have hot water or has leaks that are ongoing really can't be leased, and it can't be leased with any regularity. And occupancy is critical to the REIT space.
What would you say are some of the most common problems created by aging infrastructure and deferred maintenance?
So we specialize in servicing domestic water systems, drain waste and vent systems, as well as hydronic heating and cooling systems. And the biggest challenges with those are the aging of the piping system itself, as well as the equipment that services those piping systems. And the biggest issue with deferred maintenance is at some point, the useful life of the piping ages out. That's going to be anywhere from 30 to 50 years for a traditional piping system. And so if you don't proactively go and replace your piping systems and replace your equipment, you could be holding an asset that's essentially kind of a ticking time bomb if you're not proactive about diagnosing, analyzing, and then ultimately servicing and fixing those systems.
And what are some reasons why owners might be hesitant to tackle these infrastructure issues?
I think there's a lot of owners in the multifamily space that are concerned for two primary reasons. One, these are capital intensive projects. And if you haven't done any proper prior planning for that CapEx, it can really challenge their investment thesis. And I think the second thing that SageWater really works hard to mitigate concern for is, how do you do these projects when a building is occupied? How do I keep my asset generating the rents that I anticipate while doing major upgrades and not taking units off of the market? And that's really where we go in and try to put owners' minds at ease to phase these projects and coordinate these projects to ensure that residents stay in their homes so that they keep collecting the rent that they need to keep that asset liquid. So I would say it's primarily because they're capital intensive, and then also the concern for residents moving out and not being able to stay in their homes and generating the rents that they need.
Can you talk about some of the particular benefits of pipe replacement?
Sure, there are the obvious ones. Like I said earlier, you cannot rent a unit that has been flooded or that is flooding actively or has extensive water damage. So if you have a first class pipe system in your asset, you're not going to have any issues related to occupancy stemming from floods or displacements. The second component of that is there's a substantial amount of insurance risk that is available or in the space for REITs, where if you have repetitive flooding claims, your insurance premiums are going to go up. You're going to be bleeding money regarding deductible payments. And that's in addition to occupancy going down within those facilities.
To what extent does new legislation or regulation across the country impact the need for infrastructure improvements?
It's kind of an emergent space for us right now. Everybody's heard in the news related to lead pipe replacements. That tends to be on the municipal side. And there's also a bunch of condominium legislation that's out there that's not associated directly with REITs that stem from the building collapse in Florida, where you have to analyze the piping systems on an annual basis to ensure that they're not going to degrade the quality of the asset. So it's not exclusively related to a regulatory environment. This is generally going to be because of CapEx requirements, aging infrastructure, occupancy issues, et cetera.
What trends are you seeing in terms of the design and composition of the products you use?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think everybody in the space now is concerned with operational efficiency. And one thing for sure is when you have a building that is constantly losing water into the space, whether that's through leaky faucets, leaky pipes, or ill fitted HVAC equipment, they're burning excess electricity. So they're losing money to generate hot water because it's dumping out. They're losing money because water is literally coming through the walls. And I think owners are really focused on not only increasing rent rolls, but also reducing that cyclical or recurring expense through their utilities. And in addition to that, our services have diversified and grown to start to do value add as a component of piping infrastructure replacement. So, multifamily REITs are looking to grow their rent rolls through value adds such as in unit laundries, washer dryers being installed in old housing stock that didn't previously have it. And so, as a component of a pipe replacement job, we can install the rough ins that are necessary to put those components into a unit that allows to really increase their rent roll and really upscale the value of that asset.
David, going back to something you touched on earlier, how does SageWater work with clients to minimize disruption for tenants while work is taking place?
That's a great question. We go in, and that's part of our forensic analysis and part of our upfront pre-construction studies that we do. We really pride ourselves on being able to determine all of the stop and start points on a facility, all of the impact zones for particular phases of a building, and figure out a way to surgically replace sections of piping in a limited fashion on a day-to-day basis that doesn't impact the entire community. So it really is in that upfront study, and it's really in that pre-construction effort and phasing plan that we put together with our in-house engineers and operations staff that allow us to make sure that we're working around the building and working in the building, but not displacing folks from the building.
David, can you discuss any projects involving REITs and what benefits have resulted?
Absolutely. So, without naming names of specific REITs or ownership groups, we focus on the REIT space in the Southwest, Southeast, and Northwest region and operate coast to coast, including Hawaii. We've performed a number of upgrades for laundry conversions in old housing stock in the Phoenix Metro, Southern California, the Denver Metro, as well as all over Florida and the Carolinas. And we've been doing that for a number of years now, but we've recently brought on our ability to convert older housing stock HVAC systems to a more energy efficient 20th century HVAC system. Some folks who might be listening today would understand what a two pipe fan coil system is. And that's when a resident has only heating or only cooling, no optionality throughout the 4 seasons in the year. And we have figured out a way to, with our engineers and with our operations staff, to convert those buildings to a more energy efficient condenser water system on a housing stock that used to be an old two pipe fan coil system. So doing that for REITs does a couple of different things. Doing a laundry retrofit allows them to increase their rent profile anywhere from 12 to 15%. And doing 4 season conditioning allows a REIT that had a two pipe fan coil system in an old housing stock to upscale their building to be matching the new housing stock that's being delivered, sometimes adjacent or even next door to that facility. So it allows them to do a market correction of rents for those particular systems while also reducing their energy bills and operating costs.
Great. And David, is there anything else you'd like to share about other benefits SageWater can provide?
Yeah, for the multifamily REIT space, SageWater has really endeavored over the last few years to become a sole source provider, an end-to-end provider for the multifamily space. And what I mean by that is we are there to help REITs in a phase of diligence before they acquire an asset. We are there to help REITs perform capital improvement planning. So if you have an asset and you want to do a 3 or a 5 or a 10-year CapEx plan, we're there to help you with budgeting and identify trends and concerns you might have in the marketplace related to your infrastructure. And we're there to be a full service construction provider. So we not only do the engineering and forensics, but we also can go and deliver on the cost that's being provided with our own resources. So the number one thing that I would communicate to the REIT community is that SageWater is really trying to partner and be that end-to-end provider for these buildings and for these facilities, because we do believe in our services making your asset an improved asset at the end of the day. And what we do really is for the good of your building and really provides a healthy environment for the residents that live there. So that's the primary thing that we're trying to get across to the community, that reach out to us and make sure that you're using us to our fullest capabilities as an end-to-end provider for multifamily REITs.
Excellent. David, thanks so much. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe or leave a review on your favorite podcast platform.